Welcome to the Didi and Lital show. Advice, thoughts, and stories from a married couple on cybersecurity, technology, and life in general. Now here are your hosts, Didi and Lital.
Hello and welcome to the Didi and Lital show. Didi got my shades.
Yes.
To just switch it up from yellow shades.
Yeah. Now I'm singing blue because I'm blue. Now I'm seeing the world in blue.
I thought you were happy.
I'm blue.
Cool. What's up?
So we need to share with the crowd our romantic love life.
Oh my God. Okay. Guys, if you have kids listening, please turn it off or jump to minute 10 when we actually get to talk about technology and stuff. But we'll start with an R-rated story.
Yes.
Like a few weeks ago, if you know me, I go to bed in 9:30, 10.
9.
I like to go early to bed.
Early to bed, early to rise. Thank God I'm a country boy.
I go out running in the morning. I do my
Peloton that was John
stuff.
Denver, by the way.
So, I'm well asleep by 11 p.m. I don't know. And I'm kind of asleep. And Didi kind of breaks into the bedroom. And he was like, your delivery is here. And wakes me up.
This was too funny. So we, as you know, we are IoT'd to the hilt. And I'm watching a series in my room. And suddenly somebody rings the doorbell. And the camera comes up. Somebody's getting to the house and somebody's
11 p.m.
11 p.m. And there's a dude there that basically says, here's something you ordered from Target. And I said,
your Instagram.
Yes.
Instacart. Instagram is a different.
Yes. And basically I said, dude, the lady that orders something from Target is asleep for the last 2 hours. And he says, well, take a look. Maybe she's thinking differently. And I open the box and everyone knows it's dildo. There's a little rocket pocket or whatever it's called these days because I'm old.
Adult toy.
No, marital aid. Marital aid. This is how they're called these days. Marital aids.
So Didi shows up.
With
your
dildo.
Thing is here. And I was like, what?
Yes.
There's what do you want from me? And he's like, it's your delivery from the Target. And I was like, I didn't order anything. I'm not interested. And I'm asleep.
Well, clearly you weren't.
And he was like, but you wanted it. It's like, no, I didn't. He was so happy. He thought he's going to get some.
I was laughing so hard.
He was so happy. He came with this. I
Big
never
smile.
saw him so happy. And I was like, not interested. Don't know. Not me. So we started wondering, who is now at 11 p.m. waiting for the thing and not getting it? Or is it I was even wondering if it's a thing that, maybe it was a prank. Maybe it was,
One of your friends sending you a hint.
I don't know. Maybe it was somebody on a dating app. Maybe it wasn't a guy from, maybe he thought he's getting some with somebody, this dude that delivered it.
And all he got was a fat dude.
Yeah, he thought a happy lady will open the door, pizza delivery.
And
he got him angry and not knowing what he...
I was not angry. I was just curious.
Yeah.
I'm not angry at night.
Yeah.
I'm angry in the morning.
We will save the second R-rated topic to a next episode.
Yes.
But that's a story.
This is our cliffhanger, by the way.
The thing is that, with those type of deliveries, Instacart, you don't have the name of the person that actually ordered the thing. It's basically a dude delivering it in a Target bag. He went to the store, he picked the adult toy massager and brought it in. So, if you're interested, still wrapped, we can ship it to you if you really want it. I don't know what to do with it. Maybe Ron will massage the cat.
Yes. Or you can vote. What should we do with the adult toy? Or maybe we should give it to the tree lady. Maybe if she gets some, she'll leave us alone with the trees. Vote for it. So,
Yeah.
and I do have one more statement to make before we start.
Yeah.
On our journey to IGA and other elements. The shirt that I'm wearing, it's Remember the Kent or the Canterbury, which is from the Expanse story. And the reason I'm wearing this is because all these kids these days have this hard-on for hating themselves, hating America, hating everybody, and they want to feel like oppressor and oppressed, and most of the stuff that they're clinging onto is fictional. So if they want to cling into fiction, I have a great idea. The Expanse story that's in Amazon as a show, if those people don't like to read, or they can read The Expanse story. And this is a real story of real oppression, fictional of course, of us, the inner planets, Earth and Mars, oppressing the asteroids. The Canterbury was a ship that was destroyed by the inner planets, and this stirred a rebellion. Support the Canterbury. Remember the Canterbury. Protest about the inner planet oppression, and join the OPA. This sounds like a very good thing to protest. It's with the people that you're talking about are fictional, very much like the fictional people that they're now protecting, and protecting useless and fictional things. And they can hate themselves because they are in the inner planet, so they can protest themselves as being oppressors.
Maybe if they would use more adulthood, they will be happier and less resentful.
This whole generation is
the generation is not having sex, so
Yes.
that's another problem.
Yeah, that's why they're so oppressed.
Somebody is, I think we're getting thumbs up on the Zoom.
Yes.
They should chill.
They should chill.
So yeah, maybe we're sending the adult toys to
The kids. And by the way, this is the funny
Teenagers.
thing, that with everybody vaping and consuming weed, you'd expect people to be more chill. No?
Yeah, I don't know. Is there like something that forms self-hate
No.
in weed?
No, I think it's those that don't consume weed have the self-hate.
No, they consume weed. It goes together.
Okay.
Those guys consume a lot of weed.
Awesome.
Well, we're enough with this. That was a big opening.
Which I really enjoyed, because some of this is therapy for us.
Yeah, we need to tell the world the crazy stories that happen in Newton.
In the middle of the night. And the next thing that's going to come in the next episode, opener, relates to a very famous actor and her vagina, and how that made us laugh in the middle of the night. So stay tuned.
Cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger.
Next time. Well, now
as we said,
going
sports
back
season is
to
ending.
part 2 of the identity stack.
Yes.
Getting into modern time. So last time we talked about the history, and Didi went back into old days of the mainframe and stories from RSA and God knows. And, if you haven't listened to it and you love the past, go listen
And we covered,
get educated.
we covered directory.
Yeah.
We covered single sign-on.
Yeah.
We covered MFA.
Yeah.
And we covered the birth of privileged access manager. This is the things that we covered.
And now we're getting into modern times.
Modern times.
From SSO on.
From SSO on, and the kind of the coming together of a lot of these platforms and why they need to come together.
Okay, let's talk about it.
So, let's assume that we're talking about the 2010s and after. Right now, basically, the assumption is that if you're building an environment inside your organization, you're going to govern access through single sign-on. You're expecting to collapse all your applications under one group, and this is kind of where...
Because it's a nightmare with the proliferation of apps, as we talked,
Yeah.
and now I think organizations have hundreds, if not thousands, of apps being used. It's impossible for IT to govern each and every one and each and every user what access what stuff. So the idea is you control it through a single sign-on, a single directory that will give kind of the access to everything, right?
Correct. And before we start this, we need to talk a little bit of the evolution of consumer identity.
Okay.
And this is really related to all these things because consumer identity is very much
Unlike workforce
workforce identity.
Yeah.
Started with basically two big industries. One of them is porn, obviously, because
Well, that's the theme of the episode. I
no, it's
guess.
the theme of the internet. So the internet
Yeah, they wanted you to pay, so you had to have a credit card, username,
and password and all
everything.
these things. So
Blah, blah, blah.
these were the first
They
applications.
built the retail.
They
e-commerce.
They
was built.
started e-commerce. Most of the foundations of modern e-commerce were built thanks to porn sites.
Okay.
And if you've never seen The Internet is Really, Really Great for Porn by Evan UQ, go see that. The next one that came after porn was retail banking. And the reason that this was so powerful is because banks were able to measure financially the value of the transaction. They knew exactly the trading, if you're starting a business and you need to have all going to the bank. People, your grandpa used to come with stashes of dollars or money into the bank on a daily basis. He had everybody had their daily ceremony of start of day and end of day in the bank.
Yep.
And
I was shocked it's still happening with mums and pups shops, They go in America, mums and pups shops going at the end of the trade, the retail day and putting in cash and checks. It's still happening.
Yes. But the banks realized that the branch will keel over based on the growth of banks, and also online businesses grew at a very fast rate. And because of that, banks measured that they're going to run out of real estate for branches. And they started doing online banking.
Mm-hmm.
And online banking grew very, very fast because younger businesses wanted basically the head of finance, somebody like Gwen, to sit there and not have to go to the banks. And also it allowed small banks like SVB in California to branch out to the world because you didn't need to have a branch there.
Yep.
You could do business with everybody in every distance. And that gave birth to this idea of consumer IAM, that you managed identities in a strong way. Gambling sites, by the way, after we talked about porn and banking, gambling sites, 888, massive growth. They also were the first to bring in MFA because they were dealing with so much money and so much identity theft that they brought in this space. And there was a whole industry that was built around the fraud detection space, of detecting fraud, RSA, SEOTA, the consumer IAM space. The government in 2005 created regulation that mandated multi-factor authentication, and this gave birth to the SMS space.
SMS was there too. SMS MFA.
SMS MFA. There were tons of vendors that played in that space, and everything was driven by consumer IAM and the growth of basically the retail industry. And the second wave with Shopify and their likes that basically integrated everything gave birth to this consumer IAM space. But as this space kind of grew, also in the same time, workforce IAM grew. And they started to overlap because there's the business of me buying stuff online. So the thing that gives Omri nightmares is me going to Lululemon online and buying stuff and pissing him off. I even tell him that, hey, I'm in Lululemon, and he goes ballistic because he hates.
Yeah, the kids think that this is a bigger spend. He doesn't realize how life works.
Exactly.
Like you buying 2 shirts in Lululemon is the least of our expenses.
Yes. But this is kind of gives a sense of the fact that there's this growth. But there's the other part that, let's say, I am Didi and I need to access the bank as a business person, or I'm a trader, or I'm an insurance company logging into the insurance. I'm a small insurance agent provider, or I'm a law office, and I deal with a bigger law office. All those things is basically a business talking to a business, but it's still consumer. And that thing
It's basically partnership or
exactly
ecosystem.
Exactly. And that ecosystem growth basically started getting a big boost from the Ping identities of the world, from the ForgeRocks of the world, and from, to some degree, Okta. That if Auth0 built for Didi builds an app like Nest, or builds a Peloton, or build things like that for the real consumer, the other three built an identity stack that was based on their SSO stacks to allow businesses to talk to businesses, because for every one application that is built for consumers, there's a million of, I'm Walmart and I want to provide businesses with catering. I am Walmart, but I need to consume firewall patches from Cisco.
So you're saying the B2B world is even bigger than the consumer world?
It's 10 times to 100 times bigger, because there's a lot of applications, and they build this very complicated network of connections, because almost everybody is both a consumer and a provider. Because if you look at my Cisco to Walmart relationship, or Workday to Cisco relationship, Workday provides Cisco with HR capabilities, but I'm sure that Workday that doesn't build routers on their own, and doesn't build switches on their own, or builds firewalls on their own.
So they use
and probably use
Cisco.
WebEx. Exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I'm thinking about it, like a handful of customers at Beyond Identity are actually are companies that we use the apps. So
Yes.
it's kind of like going both ways.
It is the ecosystem, and that created the new space of the new consumer identity managers that are starting to think.
So it's like B2B SIAM. They're outside of your enterprise, but they're not consumers per se. It's not the individual. They are the supply chain.
Yes,
of your business.
and everything there. If we explained the SSO and the SAML, the new way that this is growing is through those SSO protocols, because when I built the SecureX sign-on for our SecureX product at Cisco, that was built on top of Okta, about 50% of my customers wanted to create a username and password in my system. The other 50, especially the bigger 50%, wanted to bring their own IDP. Right now, in 2024, not in 2018, it's closer to 95% of businesses expect to sign in with their own accounts into the consumer B2B space, because their expectation is that they don't want to manage, and they don't want to have a password manager. They don't want to have millions of accounts. They want to be able to say that if you think of HubSpot and you might be coming in to deal with HubSpot, and you want and today you're the CMO of the company. Tomorrow you leave the company and start in another place. They don't want to keep your access to all those services.
Of course. I mean, it's a different company. Different companies pay for the service.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you would like to have employee attrition and employee lifecycle management to be auto-managed.
Sure.
And this is kind of how I'm going a little bit in reverse into account lifecycle management, because this is the key aspect. If before there was an explosion and users were created everywhere, we're seeing now that there's a lot of attacks that come from the concept of the dormant account. And everybody's coming in to understand that in this, it's really easy to understand in the SIAM space. It's a little bit harder to explain in the workforce space. But in the SIAM space, let's think of Lital is the CMO of company A. You created the HubSpot account. You created everything around this. Everything is tied to your identity. It's not SSO'd. And you built everything around this. Same thing, by the way, will be true for Salesforce. Same thing will be true for ServiceNow. Some of this will be relevant for Workday. A lot of these things you create with your initial account that you set the username and password there. If this is not SSO'd, if you leave the company, you maintain access to that service a lot of times.
Me physically or the username?
The username, so this introduces actually two risks. One is the risk of you, disgruntled employee, maintains access to systems even after you left.
Because it's not multi-factor.
No, because even if it is multi-factor, let's say the token's on your phone. Nobody took your phone away.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody took your fingerprint away.
Sure.
Nobody took your phone number away. So if you created the account and it's not part of a federated environment,
which happens typically in a startup environment, you have your, few first employees. They buy the initial stack of tech you're going to use. They provision it. It's usually not somebody with a lot of security because you're not the awareness, because at the time you don't have dedicated security. You only have your first developers and maybe one early marketeer to help you. So they're getting all the initial software, they're setting it, they're the super admins, and they probably connect it to their phones.
Yeah, exactly. So you have a lot of this legacy accounts. Mm-hmm. So this SIAM space very clearly understands that you need this lifecycle management of your customers, because eventually if somebody will hack somebody's HubSpot account, they'll come to HubSpot and complain. They'll come to Workday and complain. So a lot of the companies that are providing those services are tightening up access and control into their core services to be able to have lifecycle management, and they prefer the federated account, which kind of leads to the SSO tax, because you'll see that smarter companies will force SSO and give it to you for free. Dumb companies will have the SSO tax and charge you extra for SSO, by that opening themselves up for liability. Because if you don't make it super easy business-wise to turn on SSO and to bring your own identity provider, now you're mandating that maintenance of that username and password population, and you're taking out the element of the user lifecycle management. And this is kind of an explanation of why it's so critical to have that user lifecycle management. And user lifecycle management on the enterprise side was born from a more boring stuff. If you remember when we were talking about directories, we were talking about PAM. Let's say we're not talking about PAM. Let's say we're talking about Didi comes to work and he needs 15 applications. These 15 applications, there's no single sign-on. They run 15 different servers. I need something to go and create an account here, create an account here, create an account here, create an account here, reset the password. I have one password, but I wanted it to be reset in 15 different places. This was the birth of SailPoint. Companies like SailPoint were born to be able to go to these 20, 30, 100, 1,500 different applications and create your users there, create your users elsewhere, and then build a report around this to say, you know what? Every month, I'm going to go to every manager and say, this is your list of employees. This is the list of applications they have access to. Please sign in blood that they still need access to this. And this, by the way, is what I'm going to share the Achilles heel of identity governance. This is the space called identity governance and automation. And it kind of became a lot more redundant, or needs a big facelift in the world of SSO. But it runs what is called the user access reviews. Almost every compliance framework that you're using today says we want to make sure that everybody that has access has just the right level of access.
So from everything I'm hearing, and you correct me if I'm wrong, we're getting to this point of like the security
Element of it.
element and how these things that were built were probably extremely broken from a security standpoint.
Correct.
You have all this stack that basically has those directories, have all the privilege account access that you're setting. Each one has its own kind of like, what does it do? At the end of the day, it's kind of like the key to the castle.
Yes.
If you get hold of that part, any element of that part, and you kind of like laterally move and stuff, you get the keys in. So, if it's privilege access management, if it is the MFA stack, if we're talking about, getting just the SMS that a user is getting, hijacking the SMS, have the SMS. If you also have the user name and password, which everybody has, or if they're still using password manager and you kind of use the dump of the password managers through any of the darknet repositories. Basically, we had so many credential theft breaches in the last few years. Passwords are out there. People reuse them still, and even all the password managers were breached. So we are like in a place that all this wonderful stack that I would argue was built for productivity,
Yes.
to help people come in, help people administer it in a more simplified way, ensuring we can use the gazillion of apps that we want to use. And, companies can talk with each other and access services and stuff. Basically, now we have a highway that a hacker that understands this whole stack and how to play with it and the vulnerable point in it, you can just log in instead of reaching.
Yes.
So you don't need CVEs. You don't need, to go around, you just log in.
Yes.
And that's the reality
Yes.
we're in today.
Yes. Because this convoluted system that I've described, which
A nightmare of like 2
Maintenance.
hours of us talking now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, some people enjoyed listening to me bullshit.
They do, but
No,
yeah.
they don't. But the idea is that this shows that you have a system right now that is very fragmented, and you need at least 2-3 vendors to make it work, and a contractor to keep it duct taped together. But it's also a little bit of the revolution of the space. So Okta and Microsoft today come and tell you, you know what? Forget all the vendors. SailPoint, Avexa, Savient, that's the IGA players. Forget you have to have the directory. Forget Duo, forget Cisco.
The directory is the base. It's basically
the directory is the base.
your
You have
yellow
to-
pages for your company.
Exactly. You have to have Microsoft. So you know what? We'll give you a little bit of IGA. We're gonna give you a little bit of PAM. They have something called PIM, which is their Privileged Identity Manager. Everything comes in for free in the E5, and they'll tell you, you know what? You get single sign-on, you get MFA, you get IGA, and you get PIM in one solution. And it sounds very appealing. The thing that proves that, and the other part that it does require, when we described that messiness of the system, is a little bit of why I came up with the need for ITDR and ISPM. When Matt and I created ORT, one of the first things we understood is that Okta is the best tool in the market for the CIO to get the CISO fired, because it allows in a very easy way all the stuff that you just mentioned. It brings everything together in a very easy way, and nobody monitors it and nobody controls it, and those systems were never effectively created to connect to the SIMs. SIMs, remember when we started 2 episodes ago, we were discussing the fact that is identity security or not security? Security right now as it is perceived. When you talk about cybersecurity, people assume that you're going to talk about endpoint protection and network protection. The identity protection was always an oversight. But because we brought all the networks together and we made bring your own device so prevalent, it basically opened up the doors to everybody to just steal credentials and log in. That required basically these two elements of, one is the consolidation, the part that I presented with Microsoft and Okta. They're saying simplify the system, make it with less moving parts. But I'm also saying you need to bring in identity threat detection and identity posture assessment, very much like you're doing the cloud posture assessment tools, that's ISPM, to basically understand how many people are actually in your system. Almost every customer that we talk to will underestimate the number of users, service accounts, and backdoor accounts that they have. Almost nobody accounts for service accounts. Nobody accounts for admin accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody accounts for conference rooms, servers.
Machine account, yeah.
Nobody accounts for any of these things. When they get visibility into this, they have like an aha moment, and then they realize that the CEO gave their password, or the CFO gave their password to everybody in IT, and then they have an
To
oh
the
shit,
admin.
and then they have an oh shit moment. So you need the identity threat detection tools and identity posture, and identity posture and identity detection are tightly bound. It's not like the same thing as in endpoint, that the people that deal with endpoint detection of alerts are of one skill set, and the people that deal with the posture management and the vulnerability manager are like in a completely different space. This is a single person that worries about both. So this is a very unique environment. And I always say that the reason I built the tool is to actually be out of business. Because if you are working together effectively with the protection capabilities, with those unified platforms, then you're able to simplify, get the identity governance process to work, get the identity privilege access management to work effectively.
So basically, you sold your company to be part of the identity stack of Cisco.
Correct.
So that you can integrate it with the giving the access.
Correct.
Like provision access to people on one end, then you monitor, you put some posture around it, you decide what is allowed, what's not in real time, you monitor, and then you go back and let the system block the user access if it's wrong
Yes,
or
it's
risky.
I view it as a mirror. So remember that you wanted to build a mirror company to tell you how you look like and how you...
Well, now it's so ubiquitous. You have it everywhere. I
Yes.
thought of this idea in the early 2000s.
Yes. So your mirror idea, we are basically the mirror idea. What does that mean?
Feedback.
We show you... You think that your policy does one thing. We show you what your policy actually does. And we give you an idea of how to make your policy better.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that you'll see right now is there's another element that's also important with all this stuff, which we can't forget, is that everybody knows right now what's the right thing to do. Everybody knows that they need strong device trust, and they know that they need to go to passwordless. Everybody knows this.
Everybody knows? I don't think so. I wonder if I'm running a survey right now, if people understand that they need to switch to passwordless, or they think, oh, it's coming, it's good for consumers.
No.
I'll wait.
No. The people.
How many people have passwordless as next year priority?
Phishing resistant factors is number one ask from every single customer, and reduction of MFA fatigue and MFA friction sits almost in everybody that has a CEO that's over 50.
Everybody that has MFA, that has factors, hate it. I mean, don't you hate it that you need to go to your email and find the 5 digits and copy paste it, or get a text message or whatever? It's horrible.
No, it's not. But
and it's not secure because
that is
people can steal your MFA.
The experience has been optimized. So right now, when I get the text message from my bank, the app automatically picks it up.
Yeah. Copies the 5 digits.
Yes. So
automatically into the app, whatever.
So the experience is already turning into being better, but we want
but it is stealable, and we've seen thousands of those attacks actually stealing MFA.
And what we want is much stronger capabilities. Everybody wants the ability to have a stronger posture. And this is where I'm going to pause and remind, I don't know if I talked about it or haven't talked about it when we were talking about the conferences, but it's worth repeating. A customer asked me a very simple question of, should we turn on MFA push, verified push, like the typing in the number. Remember that you present the number, you type in the number. And Aaron was jumping and said, "Hey, Aaron, hopefully you're listening and got to this point." So Aaron jumped in and said, "No, you need device trust, blah, 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 blah." And I said, before you jump in and say device trust, and because Aaron is right, customers need device trust if they shouldn't step through the path of the verified push. But before this, they need to understand how much they're under attack. And almost everybody that assesses how much they're under attack of push flooding, of SMS flooding, of attacks towards the supply chain, if they deploy a solution that measures their threat posture, almost all of them come to the conclusion that they need stronger factors. As soon as they come into the fact that they need stronger factors, they're thinking immediately of, I don't want the user experience to come down. So everybody's worried about authentication user experience. Authentication user experience is like top of mind for everybody. We, as the industry, need to funnel them towards measuring and fixing. Measuring and fixing.
Of what?
Of the user experience. Understand how the policy works. The CISO of Cisco, Anthony Greco, super sharp guy, texts me and says, how do I know what the exact experience is? There are no tools like Google Analytics right now. We need to have a tool that is like Google Analytics for authentication.
What, to show the user experience, how many failed?
How many fails, how many logins? How do you test that when I try to access application A, I'm actually challenged with factor B? How do I know that my policy actually happens? The tools like Auth gives you a sense of when they work or when they fail, when they go through the log. But nobody's testing this from like a Pingdom or a Splunk.
They should be customers of Beyond Identity, and they'll get insight about that. I mean, I want to say something about what I love so much, and shamelessly plug my company because you already did it a few times with your company.
Yep.
Our company mission and vision is to have secure authentication by design. So, no movable factors, no stealable factors. Everything is passwordless. And then it has to be pleasable user experience, great user experience, and easy to administer. That's kind of like the guiding principle for our builders. They had a full week session this week about what does it mean and how we build it. Easy to administer, because easy to administer means more secure.
Yeah.
If something is complex, as we see with Okta, it means that you just don't do it. You have tons of failures. You don't go and fix it back. That's a problem. Complexity is always a problem. It makes things less secure. So easy to administer and simple, delightful for the end users, because everybody hates the experience if it's not pleasing, not simple, not kind of like have your biometrics, your face recognition, or whatever, just seamlessly go the way you do with consumer apps.
So I'll wrap up.
We'll wrap with that.
No, so we'll wrap up with explaining how does a modern stack look like, and who has a modern stack.
I think that's another episode.
No.
We have so much to talk.
So at least
let's have another cliffhanger, and then we do a full episode about that.
Yes, let's do that. Let's talk about what are the components that if you're building today
So give the must-haves, and then we can do another episode of explaining.
Let's assume that you have the directory because you either have Google or Microsoft as your productivity suites given. You need to have SSO. You need that SSO to be tied to device trust passwordless manager, something like that. You need that platform to also have at least some level, 5 workflows of IGA, user access reviews, basically give a list of here are your top 5 sensitive applications. Here's who has access to them. Here's who's not using this access. Giving simple user access reviews is a must. Giving at some level of privilege access management in one of 2 ways. There are tools like StrongDM and Teleport that give you privilege access management through network connectivity. Or there's privilege access management that gives you, like Conductor 1, Alex, that we had, that give you permissions just in time. Okta's building this towards their capabilities. It's not there. Microsoft claims to have this, but you need to build tons of stuff on PowerShell. You need that IGA and PAM with just-in-time access built in. And you need some tool to basically give simple access and take away simple access to applications. So SSO, IGA, PAM, lifecycle management is a must with device trust. So this is like a must. And you need a monitoring tool because you can't fix what you're not monitoring.
So you're still talking about a stack of 5 solutions.
No, so Microsoft claims that they have the whole stack, but you also need to buy a service provider with them to duct tape the stuff together. Even their ITDR is 4 different products. So Microsoft claims to have a single stack, but it's not. Okta has a platform, but they rely heavily on partners like us to complete some of the members of the stack, and hopefully they hope to finish building the stack on their own, but they're not there. Ping is where time forgot, so they have nothing. They claim to have everything, but they just have very good GTM. This is room for startups to provide this holistic stack.
Okay.
So that's kind of where my mind is at. 1Password is doing a move towards this holistic stack. LastPass is you are. The acquisition of Collide from 1Password is a very clear sign that device
going into device. That's similar. We have similar capabilities to that.
That device is a critical part of this. So this is where, this is probably where a lot of the vendors have the biggest weakness. You'd expect Microsoft to have a strength, but because they're so big, it's so Intune is so disjointed from the core that it's not even a joke. So,
okay, that was a long episode.
This is a long episode, and as I said, cliffhanger. A famous exorcist vagina is the opener for the next one.
People will already Google it.
Yes.
Okay, we hope you enjoyed this show. If you like it, please rate and review us. We are here weekly. Let's have a good weekend.
Let's have a great weekend. And remember the Canterbury.
Enjoy the summer.
Thank you.
Thank you.